If you walked into the doctor's office tomorrow because you were having a headache and were then told you had 4 months to live, what would be your first emotion? I was told by my doctor I might only have 4 months to live, and I'm not ready to go. It's too soon. I have a great marriage, two amazing kids, a thriving business, and a very content life. So now what? What do I do? What's the first thing you would do? A rare disease with no cure, no treatment, and no time to even get your affairs in order. In this video, I'm going to tell the story of how I had not one, but two potential life-ending events within 6 months, and how they changed the way I think about life, about family, about my businesses, work-life balance, and priorities. You owe it to yourself to watch this entire video. It will make you evaluate where you are at this very moment in your life, no matter how old you are, and what your next choices would be to live your best life, to be the best version of yourself. So my nightmare story begins about 2 years ago. It was the summer. I remember being August, and I had some headaches. I had some confusion. When I say confusion, I was kind of forgetting things. Obviously very busy running all these businesses. It's the summer. We're trying to go on vacation with the kids. I mean, I'm boating, I'm fishing, I'm doing all these things. And I've got, I might forget where I was in the middle of a sentence when I'm training staff. To be honest, it was getting a little bit embarrassing. So I go to my GP, my general doctor, and he says, I'm not sure what's going on. We probably should do an MRI. Look what's going on in your head. So I have a really, really good doctor, young guy, really, really good network. And he said, well, if I send you for an MRI right now, at least in our medical system, it's going to be 9 months to a year. However, you've had a hockey concussion before, and this could be concussion-related symptoms. So why don't I refer you to the concussion clinic here in Winnipeg, Canada, where I'm from, and they have a neurologist there. And if they'll take you on and they want you to get an MRI, it's going to be a lot faster than what I can do. So of course I agreed. So he sends the referral over, and about 2 or 3 months later, I am in front of the neurologist. Explain my symptoms. She agrees. Yep, first thing we need to do is get you an MRI. Okay, so I think I had an MRI maybe a month after that. Like, it was super fast. My doctor, genius, like he exactly gave me the right instructions. So I get my first MRI. Okay, fine. What happened then is I had maybe 4 or 5 days later, I open up the mail and I have a requisition in there at a different hospital, different clinic, to do an MRI. Well, this is kind of just after post-COVID, and I just assume naturally there's a mistake. I mean, I just had an MRI. So I call my neurologist and I speak to the assistant and I say, hello, it's Garret Wong. Just wanted to let you know that I've been duplicate booked for this MRI and I'm phoning to cancel. So she does the thing. Hold on for a second. You hear some typing. She says, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Wong. It's not an accident. They want you to repeat it. So, of course, right? I hope you're taking you through this journey and this longer story because I want you to kind of experience what I was feeling. So, they want to repeat it. You don't want to ever hear those words when you go for a medical test. So I'm like, okay, why do they want to repeat it? And she starts what I call doing the medical tap dance, right? Well, it's just a precaution. They saw something there. It could be your physiology. We just want to make sure. I'm sure the doctors are just going to rule. I'm sure everything's fine. Of course, I'm freaking out right now, right? So I insist on getting some answers. Of course, she can't provide it. So what she does is she books me an appointment to see the neurologist again. Okay, fine. So I don't know, 3 weeks later, of course, you're trying to not let your imagination run wild. But 3 weeks later, I finally get back and I'm sitting in the neurologist's office and I say, okay, why do you need to repeat this MRI? And she does the medical tap dance again. Well, there's some physiology we saw. It could be a shadow on the first MRI. We need to repeat it. and I can't say anything more. It'd be irresponsible. And then she says, we just need to see if there's going to be a change in your brain in 5 months. Like, whoa, hold the phone. I said, what do you mean a change in my brain? What are we talking about? Brain cancer? Like, is there something growing in my head? She doesn't say anything. And I said, look, I was been in sciences. I have a master's degree in molecular biology. My wife has been in nursing for 30 years. She actually worked in the neurosciences department of the hospital. Like, give it to me straight. So she says to me, you want me to give it to you straight? You're sure? And I said, yes, I need to know what I'm dealing with. She says, okay, we're trying to rule out CJD. So I actually knew what CJD stood for because I had a buddy that worked on it in grad school. And I knew it was bad, like really bad, but I wasn't quite sure. And I said, are you serious? And she said, yes. So we need to repeat the MRI in 5 months to see if there's any change in your brain. And again, she's going, don't worry, it could be just a precaution. But how would you feel if you heard that? I go back home. I don't even remember driving, to tell you the truth. Make it home some way. And of course, when we are in crisis and we don't know what to do, who do we turn to? Google. You got it. So I type out CJD actually CJD stands for Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. It's a mouthful. So I'll refer to it as CJD. So I go on Google and I type it in, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. And the first entry, and I'm going to read, and I'll throw this up on the video, a rapidly progressive, invariably fatal neurodegenerative disorder. So I Googled life expectancy and Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. And here's the very first line. The disorder is fatal in a short time, usually within 8 months. The second line, most people die within 4 months to 2 years. I do some more reading. No experimental cures, no treatment to prolong my life, 100% fatal, zero hope. So they told me my next steps. I had to get an EEG, which tests brainwave activity. I guess they can look for certain patterns consistent with CJD. I need to take a cognitive test to test for signs of dementia. Can you imagine? And then I needed to repeat the MRI in 5 months. 5 excruciatingly long months. So, of course, I did some more research, trying to find out what truly is my life expectancy. What can I do? Again, I said no cure, but I mean, I had to find out. Can't I go to Mexico, or can I go to the Mayo Clinic, or some kind of experiment? I couldn't find anything. But to show you guys what we're kind of dealing with and what a typical patient presents, I'll put this on the screen right now. I found this 47-year-old female patient. Basically, her symptoms, she stumbled. Okay, she basically tripped, got a little clumsy, went to the doctor. 2 weeks later, she's in a coma, and she dies in 7 months. Like, that's crazy. And multiple stories of this. When I say 4 months to 2 years, most people are in a coma within 5 to 6 months. And when they say 2 years, that's like on life support in a coma. And then, of course, they just pass away. The organs quit. So I am going through the stages of grief, denial, anger. This isn't fair. The next thing, I mean, again, I pose that question to my audience here. What would you do? Well, I'm making promises to myself, right? I'm making promises, right? If I can get out of this, I promise that I won't work so hard. If I can get out of this, if you'll just give me another chance, I promise that I will love my family. I will, be more purposeful in my relationships, like all these different things. One thing that kept coming, it's just life was just too short. Like right now, I love my life. everything to me was perfect. Good family, good business, great relationship with my wife. I'm fishing. I mean, great balance, I thought, with, my recreational activities. Two things that I knew for sure. Number one, I wasn't ready yet. I'm not ready to go. I mean, 50 years old. I mean, I still feel like I have so much to live. So, yeah, first thing, I'm not ready yet. The second thing, I won't get to see my kids grow up. So I went through what I thought was my last Christmas with my family because, I mean, I know they said, oh, let's repeat it, but you really don't know, right? This was like, I think I had my appointment with the neurologist in November. So the other MRI was in March. So, my last Christmas, because you don't know, then possibly my last New Year's. Now I have to tell a side story. How old would he have been? 20-year-old. Okay. Been 18, legal, can go to New Year's Eve parties, can drink. Nathan is my oldest, for 2 years now. But because of COVID, of course, can't do house parties, couldn't go out. So had never really celebrated New Year's. He gets invited to a New Year's Eve party, his very first, super happy. But for this particular New Year's, he decides to cancel his plans and spend time with his family, with me, because it might be his very last New Year's with me. So I then went through my last Valentine's Day with Lisa, my wife. And so what was next? Well, one of my strengths, or you could call it weaknesses, is being able to compartmentalize stress and deal with it later. I know it's not healthy, but that's just me. And I had one thought in my head. I have this thriving property management business, but it's so busy. I mean, I can't begin to tell you guys, if there's any property management entrepreneurs out here watching this video, you know what I'm talking about. Property management is crazy. You've got your owners and your tenants and you're in between and the phone's always ringing. But it was good. I mean, we had good clients running, 600-700 houses that we were managing for 350 separate clients, but so busy. And I had this thought in my head, if I'm gone, I didn't want Lisa, my wife, to have to deal with it, especially with me just passing away. I wanted her to have a business that would run itself. Again, she could own it or it could be sold, but you can't really sell something like that if it depends on the owner working in the company. So what was I going to do for the next few months? I couldn't really, I have a lot of support, of course, but I don't want to say that I was alone, but I couldn't go to Lisa for support because, of course, she is going through her own grief. Her husband could be gone in 2 or 3 months. She's got 2 kids, a house, a mortgage, this, crazy business that she sees her husband working 18 hours a day. So I put all my energy into trying to fix the business because if I was going to be gone, and again, my whole thought process here was that I was going to be gone, I wanted to make sure that I was leaving something with her that was good and thriving or that she could sell. So I put every single ounce of my energy during this time period to fix the business. How did I do that? I read some business books. I can talk about that in a different video, but I ended up appointing an executive team that could help me. And of course, businesses, right? You want to work on your business, not in your business. How do you do that? I created systems and processes. We created systems and processes off of everything that was in my head. We tested loopholes. We tried hard to break things, fix things where they could be. The main priority, making sure the business could run without me. And we did it. We were successful. The results at that time, we had fairly happy clients. I could walk away. I could take meetings. I could step away, had an operations manager and supervisors, and everything was pretty good. All right. So that distracted me sufficiently enough to get through those 3 or 4 months of agonizing wait. So let's get back to the story. Finally, the second MRI appointment arrives. I go to the hospital late at night. That's just when the time period was, the appointment to get it done. And I call the clinic the next day to find out how long it will be for the results. Now, to back up a second, they told me when I booked the first MRI appointment that they would not be able to have me come in and hear the results because the two owners of this clinic, they're both neurologists, would be away for their annual neurology conference. Okay, fine. So I called to find out when this is going to be because they had said, we're only going to have you come in if there's going to be an issue. No reason to come in. But the person I spoke to on the phone says, okay, yeah, I see the results are in. We're going to have to bring you in to discuss. Like, what the heck? I mean, are you guys freaking out as much as I was? All right, so I make an appointment, and then 9 nail-biting days later, Lisa and I go to the clinic together to get the results. And we're literally holding our breath from the time we left home, drove to the clinic, to the time we sat down into the doctor's, inner private office, the one that you're really going to see the doctor. The neurologist comes in and she says, I don't want to beat around the bush. You're all clear. You do not have CJD. We look at each other and, of course, 1.5 million questions like how, why? So she explains that the report came back completely clear. Of course, it didn't make sense to her. So she orders the second MRI films, orders the first films, and takes a look at the before and after on her own. And she said, I couldn't find anything. So she said, I went to a second opinion with a friend of mine that she went to med school with, who happens to be a radiologist, and they looked at it together. And he had the same conclusions, compared it to the first set. And she said, there's no shadow. There's nothing even on the first one. The only thing she could say is that the first radiologist just made a mistake, made the wrong call, and sent me on this path. Now, I don't want to say I'm angry at the medical system. You know what? I think everything happens for a reason, and we'll get into that in a couple short minutes here. So what do I do? A few weeks later, Lisa and I go to Hawaii, to Maui. That's why I'm wearing this shirt, in honor of this video. It's our happy place to celebrate life. Okay. Long walks on the beach, eating too much food, some R&R. And yeah, come back, and we get back and return. And what do you think happened? Did I change? Did I get all of those promises and make good on those promises that I had, with, strengthening my relationships? Did any of that happen? Nope. I went back to my 18-hour days, 80-hour work weeks. To this day, I really can't explain myself. I really have no idea why. Okay, fast forward a few weeks later. It's the first day of my boating season. And for those of you who know me, I'm an avid fisherman. I love the outdoors, love boating, love fishing. So it's the first time that I'm fishing this season with Nathan, my oldest. And it was a terrible day. It was cold. It was rainy. There was high water this year. So, the fish weren't really biting. So we spent, 6 hours just cold and miserable. Hardly even got a bite. No fish in the boat. So, it's about 3:00 and we were ready to go home. And I said to Nathan, you know what? Why don't we try that spot right by the bridge where there's a lot of current? Because fish love current, and maybe we're going to have some luck there. It's right by the boat launch. We'll just check that out for 15-20 minutes, and then we can go home. So we drive to the spot, and I've got the boat in gear because my trolling motor, my spot lock on my trolling motor wasn't strong enough to hold us, because the current was pretty strong here. So I had to use my manual anchor. So I've got the boat in gear. And Nathan throws the anchor off the bow of the boat. Okay. And then all of a sudden my engine stalls. I'm like, okay, that's weird. So I turn the key again. Okay. That starts, put it in gear. It stalls again. And then I said to Nathan, because he's at the bow of the boat, I said, "What's going on up there?" And he shows me the rope. He says, "Dad, I don't get it. Like I threw it out, but I don't have any tension on the rope." In the meantime, the boat's slowly starting to flip around. And now the back of the boat is facing into the current. I start the boat again. It starts, put it in gear, it stalls. The front of a boat is higher in the water. The back of the boat's only a couple of inches above the water. So you never ever want to anchor in reverse into any kind of moving water. So I look back and there's already water coming over the transom of the boat, and my feet are already getting wet. I turned to Nathan and I said, the boat's filling with water. I turn on my bilge pump. It starts to pump out the water. It's still coming over. It's starting to fill up fast. By this time, I mean, I'm just looking back. I look at Nathan. I look back again. Now my knees are under the water. And all of our gear, the boat is starting to list like this. This is the bow of the boat. And all of our fishing gear, lunch kits, my gear bag, it's all starting to slide down the floor and bang into my legs. I shouted at Nathan, "I think we're sinking." And then the boat just flipped on us. So it kind of went up like this and then just flipped. So I'm at the steering wheel and the boat flips this way on me. I see the edge of the boat coming towards my head, and I put my hands up to protect myself. And that motion pushes me deep inside the water. Now, the water at this particular lake where we're at is what they call stained water. It's kind of muddy. It's not very clear, and it's turbulent. And I'm probably pushed 10, 15 feet into the water, maybe 20. And the current is kind of whipping me around, and I'm completely disoriented, and I'm deep. I've got my eyes open, but I can't tell if up is down and down is up. And I'm running out of breath. And I was so out of breath that my lungs are bursting. They're actually hurting. And I'm just about to give up and take a lungful of water. And I knew I was going to die. And the one thought that went through my head was, are you freaking kidding me? After everything I've went through with CJD and thinking I was going to die, I'm actually going to die right now. And just as I was about to breathe in a lungful of water, I hear a pop. And then 2 seconds later, all of a sudden, I see daylight and I'm on the surface. And what that pop was is I was wearing, thank goodness, a self-inflatable life vest. I didn't even remember I had it on. So I'm on the surface, and all I can see is just a little bit of the boat, the bow, just this little piece sticking up on outside of the water. And the first thought in my head, and any parents out there, I know you're going to think the same thing. If I was trapped under the boat, where is Nathan? Where's my son? So now I'm freaking out, and I don't see anything other than this boat. I'm ready to swim to it and dive underneath to see where he is. And then I hear a shout behind me. What had happened is he floated behind me. He was frantic looking for me because I was under the water for so long. And then when I surfaced, he saw me. So we swam together, got reunited, and then looked around. What are we going to do? At this point, I can actually hear, because there's a bridge that was, again, we're by a bridge, lots of cars on there, Friday afternoon, rush hour traffic, and you can hear horns honking and everything else. So we decided to start to swim back to the boat launch. It was several hundred yards away, but we figured we got to try because that's where our vehicle was. And thank goodness it's around 3:30, 4 o'clock, because somebody had just launched their boat, and we were picked up within maybe a minute, 2 minutes. I don't think we were in the water, honestly, for longer than 2 minutes. It's absolutely incredible. I mean, our saviors here, we thank them up and down. There were so many people that helped out. And, you know, there were news articles and everything else. It was quite a big deal around here. I want to make one other point. The water temperature was about 50 degrees, okay, 48 degrees, something like that. If memory serves me, that's about 7 or 8 degrees Celsius. So super cold. I mean, this is just after the thaw. And so they get us back onto dry land. And by that time, the ambulance is there, fire truck. They even brought out the RCMP with the Zodiac and the rescue boat. And they get us into the ambulance. And as most of you know, core temperature is 37 degrees Celsius. And our core temperature had already gone down to 30 degrees. Okay, 30 degrees. It's crazy. And that's only being in the water for 2 minutes. So if we hadn't drowned, then we probably would have died of hypothermia. So, I mean, you might be wondering what's going on. How did it flip? Like, what happened there? The current was so strong that if you picture again the boat, here's the motor. Nathan throws the anchor off the front, and it basically went down like this, followed into the current, and the rope, the trailing rope right here, got caught into the moving prop at the exact same time that the anchor bit into the bottom of the river and the lake. And effectively then it spun us around. So then we are actually anchored from reverse, and then you know the rest of it. But this happened in 10 seconds. I mean, think about that. 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. So that's throwing the anchor out, having the boat spin around, fill with water and flip. 10 seconds, 2 life scares, 2 life-changing events. All right, so what did I learn here? I was really, really lucky, obviously. Do you think I learned my lesson? You better believe. So what I did when I got home that weekend, because this was an out-of-town trip, is I actually took a notebook and a pen and I sat in a dark room for 4 hours because I knew that somebody was trying to say something to me. And I'm not overly religious, but still you have to wonder, right? I mean, 2 life-changing events in 4 to 6 months and me working like a maniac all this time, 18-hour days. So it was almost like meditation. And I recommend this to any of you. Take a notebook and a pen, sit in the dark room for 4 hours and just contemplate. And the questions that I was asking myself, what kind of man do I want to be? What kind of father do I want to be? What kind of husband do I want to be? And what do I do with this second chance? Truly a second chance. So when I think about my goals in my life, this property management company, and those of you who follow me know that it's almost like an accidental business. I mean, when I started out, 25 years ago as a property investor, I bought my first property at 27, built it up to, 43 buildings, 75 doors, very successful, was able to be, independent, financially independent at a very young age. And then I became a realtor, and then this property management company took off. And now all of a sudden, I'm known as the property management guy, and that's all we're doing. And I hadn't bought a property in quite a few years. I'm managing other people's real estate investment properties. So I'm really big on goal setting, as I'm sure all of you are. And that's really the main reason why I'm trying to do these thought leadership type videos. I like giving back, and I don't want people, business owners, entrepreneurs, you're out there to have to struggle. And if I can spread some kind of message, it's goal setting and work-life balance. So when I look at my goals, I knew I wanted to go back into my first love, which was property investment, but I needed to know how. I wanted to buy properties. I wanted to develop them. I wanted to refinance them and find more, just, rinse and repeat. And how? I basically said to him, okay, I know what I want to do. When you got hired on with me, you came on basically as an assistant. And I basically said, okay, when you interviewed with me, you said, I want to be able to run the company one day. And I know everybody says that, but this guy, honestly, audience, he had the stuff. Smart, had run bigger companies than mine, definitely better business mind than me. So I said, okay, I'm going to put you in charge. I'm going to make you director of operations, only answering to the shareholders. Of course, this is a corporation and I'm the sole shareholder, but we always wanted to structure our small company as a bigger corporation. So now you've got myself as the director in the corporation, and then this director of operations. And I said, you've got full control, spending, hiring, firing, the direction of the company. I want to go out. I want to flip houses. I want my apartment block deals. And I want to go onto social media and give back, do these YouTube videos, get an Instagram, and basically start on that. So that's what I did. And that's what he did. And I mean, I didn't step away completely. I was able to maybe meet with them once a week for 2 hours, but I really hadn't been in the company for doing much else at all. So you fast forward then, what are my priorities at this time? My priorities, my wife, my family and friends, travel, sleep, and health. Not necessarily in that order, but you get the idea. So now I have some questions for the audience, and that's the entire purpose of this video. So I hope you've been paying attention. Do you work too hard? Do you say things like, it will all be worth it in the end? Or, I want to do this, but it will have to wait until this. And my favorite, if I work hard now, it will pay off later. And a final question I have for you. Are you truly happy? So these are the questions you need to ask yourself. These are the takeaways of my entire video. Do you work too hard? Do you defer things until later because you think you have time in the unknown future? Do you grind away in your business thinking it will pay off later? And to repeat, are you truly happy? I follow Simon Sinek. He's the author of Find Your Why. And there was a really good quote in his book. Everyone deserves to get up in the morning, go to work, and be 100% fulfilled. You know, I want you to think about this because you only have one life to live. And again, think about any situation you've heard about in the last 6 months where even a stranger, you've heard some young person died, right? I mean, truly, you only have one life to live. I want you to choose wisely and then think about this. If you're not happy, then you need to pivot. You need to change. And if you are where you want to be, like I was, great. I want you to choose a goal and work hard, but you need to have balance. You don't want to work too hard at the sacrifice of everything that's dear and important to you. And I hope you find the answers because I certainly have. If you like the message I'm conveying here, work-life balance, success in business, trying to support business owners and other entrepreneurs, then please subscribe to the channel. Building the channel helps put this kind of video out in front of other struggling entrepreneurs. And maybe you'll like these other videos.